Welcome back to another episode of What's New Wednesday. It is September the 11th, 2024. We'll be covering things that have happened in the world of Web3 between September 4th and September the 11th. Bitcoin has touched 53K this past week before rebounding back up to 58K before settling down at 56K. But is this positive price action another example of buy the rumor, sell the news with regards to the US presidential debate that just happened yesterday? We'll have to see. Longtime MMO Eve Onliine creators CCPGames are announcing phase 3 of their blockchain game Project Awakening. What will that mean? We don't know. Will Eve Online's 10 million users make the switch to Web3? Who knows? We'll have to see. Openloot has released its new Wiki, essentially a light paper that gives clarity to some of the aspects of the token, like the 5 billion token supply cap. We'll talk about that in some more detail. There's some things that we just haven't known that we can kind of figure out now. The Big Time Showdown is underway and will most likely be finished by the time this video is published. What will the results be? Will the issues mentioned last week plague this week's results as well? Probably. We'll talk about that. So let's talk about some crypto stuff. Last week we mentioned that Bitcoin would need significant momentum to be able to break above 62K. This is in part due to the lack of activity among Bitcoin holders. Bitcoin historically has really bloody Septembers, so people are probably keeping their hands off, as well as Bitcoin spot ETF inflows are doing pretty well, so we might have been getting some market cap bleed from the actual token into the ETF possible. And then another factor is, the looming US election overhead, all of traditional finance and crypto's heads. So we'll talk about how those sort of things can affect things. I mentioned that it might not really matter what the result of the election is, but just the fact that the election is decided, that could result in some positive price action moving forward. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But first, let's just take a look at the charts. Last week on the 4th, we ended the day at 58K on the 4th. We were talking about it at about 57K last week. Between Wednesday and Friday last week, we saw another sharp decline, with bears liquidating about another $300 million in longs as Bitcoin touched down below 53K into the 52K region. We've seen the price rise steadily since then until it's hit a resistance at around 58K. So it looks like the new price to beat is 58K. So we'll have to see if we can break above that. But was this positive price action in part due to the looming presidential debate set to happen on Tuesday the 10th, yesterday? And could this be another example of buy the rumor, sell the news? Well, we do see the price go up until the 10th, and then we just see it start to crab. We see a lot of sell pressure. We're not able to break above 58K. So looks like people might have been selling the news a bit here. Remains to be seen if the bears are going to beat the bulls back all the way back down to like 52K or lower, 50K. But been looking at some pretty bearish price action the past month, I would say. So will that bearish price action continue? Let's see. Yeah, it's hard to say, but I think we will see short-term price action like this, huge swings down, huge swings up until the presidential election is over in November. But let's check out this article that just came out. It kind of talks about how election volatility can affect the market short-term and more specifically long-term. Election volatility, Bitcoin doesn't care, says analysts. So some points here. Short-term market volatility may occur during election cycles, but Bitcoin's long-term trend prevails. Historical patterns suggest that Bitcoin often reaches all-time highs in the year following elections. Regardless of the election outcome, analysts believe the bull run is likely for Bitcoin. So this article says Bitcoin doesn't care about the election results and that Bitcoin has always bounced back no matter who ends up in the White House. When we look at how Bitcoin's price moved after the 2016 and 2020 elections, we see a clear trend. Big price jumps happen after these events, reaching the highest point about a year after the election. So during the 2016 election, the Republicans won. Bitcoin was worth $703, but by December 2017, the price shot up to 20K. Similarly, in 2020, Bitcoin was worth 15K, and when the Democrats won, by November the next year, 2021, Bitcoin hit its all-time high at 69K. And Bitcoin followed followed a similar pattern in 2012 when Obama won. This repeating pattern suggests that Bitcoin stays independent of changes in political leadership. It moves to its own rhythm while benefiting investors who stick with it for the long haul. But there is some stuff about short-term volatility here we should talk about. So short-term volatility versus long-term gains. Political events can cause short-term ups and downs in the financial markets, like for example, a presidential debate. But for Bitcoin, this chatter fades as its long-term pattern takes over, right? So we kind of were talking about that last week. We were talking about how it probably doesn't really matter what the election results are. It will be bullish Bitcoin sort of in the long haul. But this article also echoes something that I agree with here, which was Matthew Segal, who leads the digital assets research at Van Eck, thinks no matter who wins the next election, Trump or Harris, the new government will help Bitcoin. And I totally agree with this. This echoes my sort of opinion. I don't really care who is in office, whether it's Harris or Trump, when it comes to the health of crypto and Bitcoin. I think that regardless of who comes into office, we're going to see huge changes for the better for the US that are going to help bring the US kind of out of the crypto dark ages back into the game as a serious player in the world market for crypto. So I think no matter what, that's going to happen regardless of who gets elected. I think the United States can't keep dragging its feet on this, and we're going to see some big moves for crypto in the United States in the next 4 years, regardless of who gets elected. That's kind of my opinion on that. So that's it for crypto this week, guys. Hopefully we see some more positive price action, but maybe it'll be slightly fueled with politics. Maybe it'll be slightly fueled by some other macro events. We don't know. So we're going to switch gears and talk about Project Awakening. EVE Online has been around since the early 2000s, and its claim to fame is its real-world-like economy. It's very similar to a Web3 game economy. Some might even say that EVE Online is the progenitor for blockchain gaming. It's also one of the first games ever to bring on a PhD economist to help shape its economy. Of all the Web2 game creators, studios, it is easy to have high hopes that this game studio, CCPGames, it's easy to say that this studio above all else should be able to make a killer blockchain game. What's still quite unclear is whether Project Awakening is going to just be a carbon copy of EVE Online, or if it's going to take a departure from the long beloved world in some ways. There's a lot of cool ways that Project Awakening, I think, is using blockchain to build upon this world and the economy concepts that they've already really ironed out. And you know, if they can start with an already functioning economy and just use blockchain to make it even better, I think that gives them a huge advantage as far as being able to create an amazing game that actually utilizes blockchain effectively. So at the time of this video, phase 3 of their alpha journey is about to go live in 12 hours. What does this mean? Will it be playable to everybody? Will there be a limited play test? Is it just a countdown to a teaser trailer? You know, if you're in their Discord and you're paying attention, you probably know the answer to this, but for the average pleb like me, maybe you don't. What I don't see though right now is an official X Twitter page, and this website seems to be an official website, but I would also mention that as it comes closer to launching and things happen, pay attention to what the URL is. Pay attention to if they do actually have a Twitter that comes out. Make sure that it's a legit account, because you do want to be careful for fakes. You don't want to get scammed. Always make sure you're paying attention to that. But anyways, so as always, this is the typical situation that happens in Web3. Not all EVE Online fans will be receiving this so well. So you know, some people are excited, but then here's a Reddit thread that came out in March, and so this guy's pretty upset. Public service announcement, Project Awakening. So CCP has announced Project Awakening with a sign-up page, but before you all run over to register, you should be aware of one small teeny thing. And he copy-pasted this text, which basically means that the game is a blockchain game. And he says, blockchain and crypto again. Pilmar doesn't seem to learn from how hard the world has pushed back on this garbage. Do what you will with this information, my fellow capsulers. And it's like, okay, your bias is showing, but anyways, we're just gonna go through this. Obviously, most of the people in this thread are echoing what original poster is saying. How dare they? Oh no, blah blah blah. You get a few people that are just kind of like, so what? If they make a good game, then I'll play it. Simple as that. I don't care what buzzwords you want to staple onto it. If it's bad, I'll forget about it. If it's good, I'll play it. Strangely, I also apply this filter to all video games I play. And this guy responds and says, the issue with blockchain stuff is that I inherently don't trust anything on the back end. That entire subsection of the tech industry has so many scammers, hackers, and grifters that anything they touch is immediately suspect, which is like, come on, guys. This is a legitimate game development company. They've got a huge budget. They've got great experience working with an economy. Are they gonna rug you? Are they gonna like intentionally fuck you over? No. What do you mean? So much prejudice in the way that these people are talking about blockchain and crypto. It just drives me nuts. A lot of people are really upset about it being a blockchain game. Here's this guy who says, this is not going to be popular here, but blockchain can be used in some interesting ways for a persistent serverless world. It's not all investment scams and voting primates. So true. But yeah, take that for what you will. If you look at Project Awakening on here, there's all this stuff about a PS5 game. I don't think that's the same thing. You know, we got some more FUD. Some people have been covering it. Yeah, there's a lot of different opinions about this game. I'm super stoked about it because, you know, EVE Online is a classic game. If you say EVE Online, the average gamer knows at least what it is in theory, like passing, oh, it's some sort of like space MMO, space opera thing, and combat's kind of really boring, but the economy is really good. And that's kind of the gist of it, right? What do you guys think? Do you think the normies are going to warm up to the blockchain due to this game, or will they be fighting, kicking and screaming to make sure that this game fails? We'll have to see. I'm curious to see what people think about it once they get into the game in phase 3. It seems like they've got a lot of plans in motion here, so hopefully they figure it out. Okay, next, Openloot stuff. Openloot made an announcement yesterday that they finally have released a wiki for the Openloot token. So Openloot has announced their new wiki, which is kind of like a light paper, which details the basics about how the Openloot token will work, tokenomics, etc. Let's highlight some stuff. We'll just go to this section quick. We've talked about this section in these diagrams before. The gist is, if you hold Openloot token, you are part of the community, which increases the utility of Openloot. You spend Openloot and you get Openloot for spending Openloot, and it also gives you a bunch of perks and discounts, which they think will increase acquisition and so on. There's different tiers, and with those different tiers, you'll be able to unlock different benefits. Some examples would be exclusive NFTs and token airdrops, early access to games, and better discounts for purchasing on the website. Things like buying their soft currencies with Openloot token. So how do you get it? There's a bunch of different ways. One way that hasn't really happened yet, and I'm the most curious about, is the Openloot TGE event. But yeah, so like the gist of the token, when you read through this wiki, is that the Openloot token is going to be like the glue that holds all of the Openloot games together, which I think is awesome. And it should work as a way to incentivize play across all the games. This TGE airdrop, this is going to be solely based on your activity on the market. The tab says that the players who have transacted on Openloot or completed prestige portals between October 23 and when this goes live will all be eligible. So that's pretty dang cool. Like if you bought a bunch of stuff in the beginning of 2023, you are eligible and you will get some Openloot reward points. But some caveats here. So the caveat is that the recent activity is going to be weighted heavier than like older activity. So if you spent 20K on Big Time in October 2023, you would get less Openloot rewards than if you spent 20K on Big Time right now, which is like, okay, that's kind of fair. They want to reward people who are actually still here and have been still here, right? So this mechanic kind of seems like it's geared towards making sure that the people who have stuck with Big Time and with Openloot throughout this entire story, they're the ones getting rewarded the most, which seems to make sense. So pretty dang cool. Anything you've bought, sold, all the prestige portals you've been running, they are all going to add up to a nice little airdrop for you, Openloot airdrop. And if you're like me and you've already been collecting Openloot reward points from the social media campaign, as well as in-game by opening Openloot reward points epoch chests, then probably sitting pretty. I'm pretty excited about the Openloot airdrop. I think it's gonna be a little bit juicy, but who knows? Anyways, tokenomics. They finally got a tokenomics page, and this clears up some things. We know for a fact that it's an ERC20 token created on the Ethereum blockchain with 5 billion token supply cap, I should say. And you can see this chart here. The vesting is split up into 3 different sections, programs. We got treasury and ecosystem, user rewards, and marketing community. Yeah, so it seems like all of the Openloot reward points that we've earned to date are actually like anything that happens before the actual launch of the token is coming from the marketing and community section. So that's important to note. And I think that you'll be able to earn Openloot reward points after the token is launched, and that might be coming from the user reward section. But right now, primary source of Openloot reward points are all going to be allocated through the marketing and community section. And it's also important to note that the treasury and ecosystem is, they say it's for ecosystem growth, liquidity, and treasury provision. So whenever they say liquidity, you always have to think that they're going to be supplying liquidity to centralized exchanges, which means that that could inflate the token supply, regardless of how much the community and the players are earning it and using it. So hopefully we don't see like circulating supply balloon too quickly. That kind of did happen with Big Time at one point. If we look at this vesting period schedule, you know, we see treasury and ecosystem is definitely the thickest, fattest mother trucker there, which kind of doesn't make sense. And user rewards is supposed to be 50%, and this is supposed to be like 30%. So I don't really get how this graph is to scale in any way, but it looks like a little bit worrisome when I see this, right? Because it seems like they're going to be pumping out a lot of tokens into centralized exchanges. That's what this diagram sort of looks like to me, but I should be wrong. That's it for the Openloot topic, guys. We will be following this as things develop. Hopefully we get some more exciting news about the Openloot airdrop, and when we can see that happening, make sure you guys are trying to get as many Openloot reward points as possible. Final topic of the week: Big Time Showdown Finale is live. All activities from previous rounds are now active. So if we go to the Big Time Showdown, we can see we got this list, and if we export it, we get this. And if we look here, we can see a bunch of people, and if we click search for J Cluster, we can see I'm at 152nd, which is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. So something's got to change there. I want to be in the top 10, but it's starting to look pretty unlikely. And why is this? So the Big Time Finale is ending on the 16th, started on the 9th. All the people who qualified during the showdown compete for some juicy OLRP prizes, but the question is, will the top contestants of the Clocky Carnage outpace all of the other players? Because last week we were talking about how Clocky Carnage was so ridiculous. Like, look, NFT Chew got how many points from killing Clockies? How is that even possible? Like, how is that possible? Even like in the top 250, most of the numbers are ridiculous. Like, there's so many points just from grinding. It doesn't make sense. But okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. Let's search in the spreadsheet the top 5 players from each round to see kind of where they stand. Ted Lasso, 35th. Charlie P, 168, so he's with me. And Eternity, I think Eternity's up to the top, 2nd. All right, so that's for the first week. We got all these people. We haven't seen them yet. Where are they at? They're 4th. Eternity, oh, we already checked Eternity, right? Yeah, he's 2nd. And Neverland's 142. All right, that was 3 and 4. Zamuse, we haven't seen him yet. Where is he placing so far? He's 29th. I too high. 408. Dang. Metaverse X, he's 94th on the showdown right now. He was 3rd in the Swords and Daggers. Zamuse, 29. Yeah, okay, so that's all the first 4 rounds, and we got some people ranging from 400th place all the way up to the top. Several of them are all kind of in the top 10, let's say. Like, if we keep going, man, these top contenders are killing it. It's gonna be tough to compete with all these people. They're like basically all in the top 100. Like, literally most of the people who are in the 5th showdown are in the top 100. We're beating out top 5 crafters, right? It's crazy, guys. So what does this mean for the showdown result? Are we gonna see basically the top 3 be crafters and then the rest just be grinders? Like, I got in the top 10 on round 2 for the showdown, but will I be able to compete with that? I don't know. Will Will the nefarious big time businesses beat out the dedicated players with their 24/7 grinding tactics? That is the question. So far, the answer is kinda. I've been grinding clockies for hours like this past week. Some people might have seen me in the game. I'm always there as best as I can. Typically just soloing dungeons at this point because I can't keep a decent party together who can actually communicate. But I've also currently crafted one legendary weapon so far, crafted dozens of commons of armor pieces in order to craft 9 sets of common armor, 3 sets of uncommon armor, 1 set of rares, and a bunch of epics. Hard to say how much grinding has actually helped me though, because I don't know if I sort of pointed that out, but if you look, where's J Cluster on this list? 152nd, guys. And I grinded big time for like probably 12 hours yesterday and mainly was doing clockies. I took a break and did a couple prestiges, but like, yeah, it's been rough. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to compete even though I'm grinding and crafting. You know, like there are crafters who qualified in most of the first 4 rounds that are in the top there, but it seems like the grinders are definitely holding their own, and they might beat me with my crafting and grinding combination even. The gist is that these big time businesses are untouchable on the grinding side, and even most crafters will have a hard time competing with them, which is nuts. Sucks to say that. Anyways, guys, wish me luck on this. I'm still hoping to get in the top 10, but at least the top 20, I hope. That's the goal anyways. If I don't get in the top 20, then I might as well just not even bother trying and just stay in the top 250. We'll see what happens. But anyways, who knows? It's still too early to say what the results are going to be, but you best believe we're going to be talking about the results next week. And speaking of which, that is it for this episode of What's New Wednesday. If you are watching this in the future, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, and as always, don't forget to tell somebody about it, and I will see you guys all next week. Peace.